Hi everyone, welcome back to the Better You podcast. Today's episode is about the books that we would like to recommend for the listeners to read in 2025. Today's guest is Ying Yun. She was my housemate when I was in university. I think the beautiful thing about our friendship is that although I was living in the UK, when I came back, I still, meet up with Ying Yun, and I'm so grateful for our friendship. So I'm very excited to have Ying Yun today because she's a book lover herself, and I thought she's the perfect person to be on for today's episode. She's also my guest in one of my previous episodes about growing up as an Asian kid. So do check that episode out if you haven't already. Welcome to the Better You podcast, Ying Yun. How are you feeling today?
Hi everyone, I'm Ying Yun. Thank you so much, Rashisha, for inviting me on your podcast. This is my second time on your podcast, and it feels like every time when you come back from the UK, we will do one episode. So yeah. Okay, maybe just to introduce myself, like what Patricia said, we met each other in uni. So I think it was back in 2019. That was when we first met. So it has been a few years. Eventually we became housemate, and we became pretty close friends. Yeah. So currently, I'm working in KL. I'm working in marketing and trading for oil and gas industry. Of course, the books that I'm going to recommend today has nothing to do with oil and gas, because I feel like that would be pretty dry for some listeners. Yeah, I do like reading. It has been one of my habits since a very young age. So since young, I'm someone who read a lot. Ever since I started working, I have less time to read. So now I would always find time to read, but most of the time, the only time I get to read is, let's say, on transportation. Like if I go to work in the morning or when I come back from work, I'm in the train. So that's the time when I try to squeeze in some time to read, because other than that, when you're working in corporate, actually, sometimes you don't really get your own free time to do the things you like. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this episode because Ying Yun will be talking about an autobiography, and I'll be talking about a self-development kind of book. So it's very nice to see like different insights and different perspective on today's episode. All right, let's get started. For the first question, what's your favorite book and what made you pick it up in the first place?
For me, actually, it's pretty hard for me to choose like one single favorite book. Because I would say I have a few books that I really like, but I do have like a favorite type of book to read. So for me, I would always gravitate towards like autobiography or like memoir. So I would say those are the favorite type of book that I like. So it's also because I like reading about people's story. Yeah. And also learning about what makes them who they are today. Because those stories can sometimes, it can be relatable to you as well, and then it can also be inspiring at the same time. So it's like there's always something that you can take away from their story and then apply it in your own life. Sometimes I do prefer reading autobiography and memoir compared to like self-development book, because I feel like I learn better by learning from other people's story instead of like by reading through theories of how we can better do certain things. Maybe one of my favorite autobiographies, and the one that I'm going to recommend to our audience today, is Becoming by Michelle Obama.
I love it.
I think that book was published in 2018, so quite a few years back. And it was pretty popular. I think even until now, Michelle Obama already published another new book. So, but Becoming is still one of the more popular one that she has published. Actually, it's a deeply personal book, I would say, that she wrote about her journey from a young girl growing up in south side of Chicago, and then to her years as an accomplished lawyer, and then she eventually became a community advocate, and then eventually the first Black First Lady of the United States. So it's about like the whole journey since childhood, and then all of the struggles and experience and like self-discovery journey all the way until now. I think what I like about that book is also, unlike a lot of autobiographies by political figures, this book is actually not just about politics and not just about her roles in the political scene, but in fact, she focused a lot more on like self-discoveries and experience that shapes her identity as a person instead of like as a political figure. Yeah.
So inspiring, and I think she has set an example, not just as a female, but also, someone from a minority background. And I'm sure like she has inspired so many people.
Yeah,
Even outside of US, it's like us in Malaysia.
Yeah, exactly. I think like a phrase that she keep using in the book is like she always refer to her situation as double minority, as in a lot of times when you're in the room, you're the only black person. At the same time, you're also the only female. So that to her is like she refer it as a double minority in the room. So that sometimes make the situation even harder. And so this book is also a lot about how she breaks the boundaries and how she is like, now that she has gone through that, so how she wants to like create more opportunity for people in similar situation, and also like of course like share her experience with others as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure inspiringly she has set the path. She's opened more paths for people of similar backgrounds to join politics or be an advocate. So that's very inspiring. And I didn't read the book, but I've watched one of her documentaries. I think it's by the same name on Netflix. I really enjoyed it. It was so inspiring. I shed a few tears, learned a lot also through that.
No, I actually haven't watched the documentary because like I actually don't have a Netflix account. I know she also has a podcast about, not really about this book, but talking about topics related to this book as well. So I've listened to the podcast, like every single episode of the podcast, but the documentary not yet. Maybe one day I would try to find it, and then I'll be interested to watch as well.
Don't worry, I can share you my account.
Yeah, sure.
Also, that podcast I need to check out. I need to watch those episodes.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's really lovely.
Yeah.
My favorite book is something around like self-development and also self-discovery also. It's more entrepreneurial. If you heard my previous episode about me wanting to start my own NGO, I picked this book up. So it's The Diary of a CEO.
Wow, yes, definitely sound like, because like Bashisha to me, she's always like she has the entrepreneur mind, and she's always trying to create something of her own. So I feel like I can really see like why you would be interested in this book just by looking at the title.
Yeah, thank you. Even if I didn't go into that space, I think I've always been very ambitious as a female myself, since young. And I do see myself like in corporate wanting to be a CEO. So I thought like, this book is such a perfect timing for that, to just learn about how the author, if you've not heard about him before, he actually has his own podcast, I believe by the same name on YouTube, and it's very famous. He is Steven Bartlett.
Oh, I think I've heard of him. Yeah.
He's a very inspirational figure. And I picked this up because I was also at that stage where I was just trying to find my purpose again, after graduating. And I really wanted to learn from those stories of people, especially if they started from nothing, because that's who he was. He started from nothing. And this book really taught me a lot about resilience and self-awareness. What was happening in your life when you read this book, and how did it speak to that moment?
Actually, I only read this book, I think 1 or 2 years after I bought it. I would say I was in very different stages when I bought it and when I read it. So I was in my final year of uni when I bought the book, actually. So at that time, maybe it was just because it's such a popular book. And so I was curious to see like what the hype was about. And when I bought it, it wasn't really like I was finding a book that speaks to me at the moment. But then when I finally read it, like I was already like almost 2 years into working in corporate. That was a year when I started to build a lot of confidence in my work, and I started to have a clearer vision of like how I want to build my career. But at the same time, there is also this confusion in me that I feel like, who am I at work? I'm not sure if that is truly me. As in, I always feel like there is a version of me when I'm at work, and then there is a version of me outside of work. And these two versions are quite different if you compare them. So at that time when I read the book, what resonates with me the most is probably how Michelle Obama talked about the way she had to fight to hold her own identity even when her life got bigger and busier. I think for me it's the idea that balance isn't always about doing it all and having it all. It's about like protecting who you are in the middle of like all the craziness and hecticness in your life. Yeah. So I think that resonates with me a lot at that moment because, of course, like for her case, her life is a lot bigger, a lot more busy than us. But for us also, sometimes when you are very busy at your work, you tend to question like, is this really who I am? Is this really what I want in life? Like sometimes like after all the busyness, you sit down and think, oh, so I have done this much at work, but why do I feel like I'm a different person at work and I'm a different person outside of work? So how do I reconnect this two version of me? So how do I like be like ambitious and be busy at work, but at the same time not losing who I am, outside of work?
I do actually resonate with whatever you just said, because I think we all face that questions at that point in life. And I think that's why it's so important to not lose yourself in that journey. Because I did hear somewhere that you become different versions of yourself throughout your whole life.
Yes.
But I think it takes a lot of discipline and responsibility. And also on the same page is those kind of figures that inspire you to just stick with yourself and hold your values and ground yourself. So it's very nice to see, like, through this book, you've probably found a clearer way to reconnect with yourself.
Yes. I think so. I think this is also something that is mentioned a lot in the book. Like, how do you stay grounded despite all the things that happen around you?
And stick to your roots and
stick to your root and hold on to the value that you believe the most.
That's very nice. So for me, when I read The Diary of a CEO, I was at a point in my life, like I've mentioned, I wanted to grow, not just, finding myself, but also develop discipline, direction, and a clearer sense of purpose in life. So I guess the book, I can say it came at the right time for me because it showed me like how inner growth and professional success are connected. It reminded me that, leadership isn't just about status or control. It's also about knowing myself.
Yes,
because that's essentially what I hope to do, is create a business or an NGO that can make a difference in the world today. To give back and share like whatever success in the future, hopefully I want to give it back to the community that I grew up in and help more people to achieve that dream of theirs. What's the biggest lesson or idea that stuck with you from the book?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that stuck with me, it's actually the core message that this book is trying to tell the reader, is that becoming isn't about reaching a final version of ourselves, but it's about like staying open to changes and learning along the way. And it's more like we should focus on the progress and to own our story, even including the messy and uncertain parts that sometimes we don't really like about ourselves, because that is also a part that makes us who we are. There is this part in the book when she mentioned she thinks that one of the most useless questions that adult can ask a child is, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if at some point you become something and that's the end. The answer to who we want to be in life, it's never like a finite answer. So I think the answer can always change. And as we enter different stages of life, the answer is always like evolving with us. There is no pressure to always figure out what we want or who we want to be at all time. Like sometimes you are more certain and sometimes you're a bit unsure, but it's all fine.
So beautifully summarized. Just want to say, Ying Yun.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think I also, on our down days, we definitely can be our biggest critic. And I used to be someone that seeks perfection in everything. But I've learned along my own way that it's okay to, be not perfect. And
yes,
I also
correct.
Embrace that part of me because, like you say, it's me.
Yes.
It makes me who I am today, and it's like I'm human. It makes me more human, and I can see like people connect with me better when I also show my not so perfect side.
Yes. Because every one of us has that not so perfect side. So it's like when you're talking to people and the image they portray is like, wow, they are so perfect, that sometimes we also feel like, like
a bit disconnected.
Yeah, a bit disconnected. It's like, how do I talk about my struggle with this person? I also agree with that. Like sometimes when you start to disclose a bit of your vulnerability, actually people connect better because people feel more comfortable to share the vulnerability or the not so perfect side of themselves as well.
Yes, and they relate to it more, and you're on the same page. Then you can bond better.
Exactly. Yeah.
The biggest lesson for me that stuck with me from the Diary of a CEO was your mindset shapes everything. Your success, your relationships, and your ability to lead. And I like that the author, Steven, he talks a lot about how self-awareness and emotional control are the foundations of great leadership. And it made me realize that, one day if I do run my own business or my NGO, it isn't just about strategy or profit. It's also about who I am as a person. Because you can't lead others effectively if you can't lead yourself.
Yes, that is very true. Yeah. I think that just reminds me of the things that people always say, what's the difference between a leader and a boss. So I guess like a leader is someone who know themselves and also know what's best for the team, and you can grow together with the team. Like while developing your team, you're also developing yourself as well. But a boss is more like, as in you have a goal and your main objective is just to achieve your goals, and like whether it's for profit or whatever other goals that you have. But maybe along the way you might forget that you have people who are with you, and it's also your responsibility to think about their development at the same time your own development as well.
I know, Ying Yun, you've mentioned many quotes,
Yeah.
but is there one particular quote or passage that really hit home for you while reading Becoming by Michelle Obama?
I think there is a quote that really stays with me when she said that if you don't get out there and define yourself, you will be quickly and inaccurately defined by others. I think that line hits me because it speaks to the importance of like taking ownership of your story. So it's so easy to let other people's expectation, labels, or opinions shape how we see ourselves. Especially when you're an introvert in a world that everyone has something to say. So it's like if you don't say something for yourself, other people are going to say it on your behalf. So, but the quote reminded me that it's up to us to decide who we are and what we stand for. And it's about having the courage to live authentically and not let others write your narrative for you. And I think what's even worse is that when other write your narrative for you and you start to internalize those narrative without like pausing and think for a moment, like are those narratives true? And eventually you would be someone who is defined by what other things you are. That is a quote that I actually remember even after reading that book for like, I think it's been around 2 years or 1 to 2 years now, but I still remember that quote.
I think that quote really is very powerful because we tend to put a lot of our identity into external validation.
Yes.
So that quote definitely does ground you and say like, know yourself first. And because once you know yourself, like whatever people say, it might not be exactly true. Because if you don't know yourself, then you might think, hey, actually, I think that is me. And when you internalize that, you lose hope. You lose hope like you are that kind of person that can achieve so much. I do hope like this episode, whoever is listening, like to not seek external validation, because I used to be someone like that. And I hope it inspires you to, maybe can always seek through books or even podcasts, and maybe take a moment today to write down your strengths and weakness, and we let that be a reminder, especially those strengths, that you are so much more than what people define you as. For me, yes, there is one quote, and it is the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions. So that quote stayed with me because it is true. Like every choice I realized, no matter how small, builds my future. And it reminded me that even in times of uncertainty or doubt, I can still have control over how I show up every day. And that mindset shift helped me stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline instead. How did this book change the way you think or show up in your daily life?
I think maybe this one can be linked back to the quote that I just shared just now. Because for me, it's like, I'm actually pretty much an introvert in my real life. So, like what the quote say, if you don't get out there and define yourself, but I think as an introvert, it's a bit harder for us to like actually put ourselves out there and be loud and define ourselves, like who we are and all those things. But after reading this book, I think what I learned from the book is also that defining yourself doesn't always mean like you have to be out there and be loud and tell everyone verbally who you are. Sometimes defining yourself is also through the things that you do, the way that you do things, the way that you share your opinion, even if it's not loud. Like, how do you carry yourself? That is also a way of you defining yourself. Like, you don't always have to be on the stage and be in the spotlight and show everyone who you are. So there are a lot of different ways of doing that. So that is something that I think, not to say like it really changed the way I think, but it's just, I feel like it reaffirms what I have been thinking all this while. You can still speak up for yourself, even though if you're not the loudest person in the room.
I think that's such a great way that you've put it. It gives perspective to the listeners that, especially those introverts out there who are maybe a bit more shy and not sure how can they make themselves seen.
Yeah.
And it's not, like you say, it's not just about being loud. It's more like how do you make impact? And it can also be through your performance, through your actions, and through how you're showing up for others. So, in a work setting or in personal life, through those small actions also, you can still create impact.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a nice way. For me, it changed the way how I think about success. Like, I've learned to prioritize consistency over perfection.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yes.
To focus on showing up for myself every day, even when I don't feel ready. And it also made me reflect more deeply on my why and why I want to create, an NGO one day or start a business, and how I want people to feel through my work. And that's just like how we were saying about, giving impact in a room or to the community or to the world.
Yes,
so I started seeing leadership not just as a title, but as a responsibility to serve and uplift others. Can you share a specific example of how you applied something from the book in real life?
I don't think there is like a specific action that I did, but it's more like a shift of mindset and mentality. The idea that becoming is not finding an end goal of who you want to be in life, but it's more like it's always a work in progress, regardless of how old you are. So I think in the book, like Michelle Obama, she also mentioned when she wrote the book, she was, I think, 54, and she said even at the age of 54, she is still a work in progress. I think that is something that it shifted my mindset a bit, because I think since young we always have this image in our mind that, oh, by this age I want to be a person like that. By this age I want to achieve this. So we will always have a goal like 30 things to do before 30 is like the person that I want to be when I am 30. After reading this book, it reminds me that if we change the way we look at things, we are always work in progress, and the person that we are becoming, it will always change, depends on our situation and depends on our stage of life, and that is okay to not have like a final fixed answer of who you want to be in life. Yeah.
So inspirational. I have a few things that I want to unpack here. I think it says so much about her and how she has set an example as a leader, because a true leader will always think that they have so much more room to grow with others.
Yeah.
And that's what you've mentioned, that even at 54, she still thinks that she's still in a work in progress. And it makes it less isolating for people like us who are still so young. And we feel like we have so much more we haven't achieved. What she's trying to say through that is like, hey, it's okay. Even I'm so much more experienced, I still think that I have so much more to learn.
Yeah.
So that's one that I think of after you said that. And the other thing is like being more accepting about our progress. Because I'm used to be like that also. Like, I've so many things, when I was younger, I want to achieve this and that. And then when I reach that age, I feel like, oh, I'm not good enough because I haven't done so much more compared to my peers. But what I've realized, through these past few years is that, hey, it's okay. We are on our own journey.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't achieved that was the model that I had for myself, and I've put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
But right now I think of it, it's also okay. It means that maybe I'm just not suited for that. And there's better things that are more suited and I can shine through.
Yeah, exactly. I think like when you set the goal for yourself, maybe that is you, let's say 5 years ago, you set a goal for yourself that in 5 years I want to be that. But then along the way, maybe you have also changed. The goal that you set 5 years ago might not be the most suitable for you currently. Regardless, like throughout the process when you're trying to achieve that goal, you definitely learn a lot. And yeah, you definitely become a better person. So I think that's what matters more than whether you achieve the goal or not.
And also I realized, and that's something that I want to inspire the listeners, is that 5 years ago me, I only knew what I knew at that point.
Yes, yeah.
And that's why I set those goals, because I knew myself at that time. And along the way, along your journey, you learn so much more about yourself. And I guess we should be a lot more forgiving to ourselves. Like, just because we didn't meet the status quo, like the norm, like how people should be, doesn't mean that we are less good than others. It just means that we are becoming more us, and we should embrace that uniqueness.
Yes, yeah.
For me, one thing I started doing after reading the book was journaling my decisions. So not just what I did, but why I did it. And it helped me understand my patterns, both emotionally and professionally. This has made me more intentional with how I handle challenges at work and how I manage my time and emotions. I've also started practicing being more direct and confident in expressing my ideas, even when they go against the norm.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I feel like we tend to have the tendency of like want to take care of other people's feeling, and then we hold back what our true opinion actually is. Yeah, I think that's a common thing for me as well. I still tend to do that sometimes, and I always have to remind myself, stop doing that.
Prioritize ourselves. Yeah, I think we both resonate because Ying Yun and I, we are both introverts and we are feelers.
Yes. And you put
the worst combination.
Yes, that's the I always think,
What beliefs or habits did the book challenge you to rethink? I think this is a great question.
Yeah. I wouldn't say like it actually makes me rethink my current belief, because the book actually quite aligned with my existing belief. But I think it just helped me to sometimes put my thoughts into better words. We will have these thoughts in our mind, some questions that we keep thinking, but I think Michelle Obama, I think she just nicely put those thoughts into words and makes me see the problem in a more structured way. I think I've been quoting the book a lot, and I'm still going to do that another time. So I think there is this part in the book that says, it's a whole paragraph that says that I had been raised to be confident and to see no limits, to believe I could go after and get absolutely anything I wanted. And I wanted everything, because why not? I wanted to live that head-tossing, independent career woman zest. And at the same time, I also gravitated towards the stabilizing, self-sacrificing, seemingly blunt normalcy of being a wife and a mother. I wanted to have a work life and a home life, but with some promise that one would never squelch the other. I hope to be exactly like my mother, but at the same time, nothing like her at all. It was an odd and confounding thing to ponder. Could I have everything? I had no idea. I feel like this is something that I feel like maybe a lot of women can relate to, that we are often told that at some point of our life, we will have to choose between work and
motherhood.
Home.
Yeah.
I always told like it's impossible to do well in both. Even though, I mean, us, we are still, I would think, quite far from that stage. We're not there yet, but even at this stage, there will always be someone trying to feed us that idea and remind us. Personally, I had some male colleagues at work who told me in my face that, why are you working so hard? Because eventually you will still need to shift your focus to family anyway. I think at that time it was quite shocking to me that, I'm only like 25, 26, and you're telling me this. I'm not even at that stage yet. I feel like the society nowadays just fit this idea to women a lot. And me being my stubborn self, I always feel like I just want to prove them wrong. So it's like, ever since I started working, I always hold myself to the standard that I'm only satisfied with my life if both my work life and my life outside of work is equally doing well. I always have this thing like, I won't be happy if I'm doing very well at work, but my life is a mess. And at the same time, I also won't be happy if like I am living a very good life, but let's say my work is not up to standard. So I think I'm someone who value balance a lot. Yeah, I feel like I'm only happy with my life if both sides is equally doing well. This is something that I think Michelle Obama, she summarized my thought very nicely in words. And I feel like it's something that it's not like it makes me rethink my belief, but it's something that I feel like now I'm more clear of what I believe because of how she put it out in words.
Yeah, it has just emphasized more about your values and your beliefs.
Yes.
Would you say it's a Libra thing?
Maybe.
Libra is a very balanced, like as a
Maybe,
horoscope,
yes.
you guys are very balanced. So I can see
Yeah,
that you,
yeah. This is also something that actually I only realized in recent years after I started working for quite some time. I feel like to make myself happy, I need to have a balance between both, and I need both sides to do equally well. Yeah, because I know like some people, let's say, when their work are not doing very well, then they would make sure they have a very good life, or like when something is going on in their life, they would like distract themselves with work and make sure their work is doing very good despite their life not going so well. But for me, it's like I kind of feel like that doesn't really work for me. I need to have a balance, like when both are equally doing well.
I just want to say that is such a healthy mindset because in a way, you are setting a boundary between work and personal life. You know when to draw the line. And that just goes back to our theme about, self-discipline. I think this book, there's something in common where Michelle Obama does talk a lot about becoming, but it also boils down to how disciplined you are to define yourself and set that.
Yeah.
And also through my book, starting your own business, you also need to discipline yourself in new ideas, but also learning more about yourself. For me, it challenged my old belief that success has to look a certain way.
Yes.
That I had to have everything figured out before I start something big. So I think this book made me see that most great ideas are born out of uncertainty and that clarity comes from action, not overthinking. And it also challenged my tendency of being, self-critical like I used to. I like the point where the author talks about how self-doubt is often a sign that you care. And that really shifted how I view my fear or vulnerability. Because I think I used to think like, oh my gosh, I'm doubting myself. But actually, if you think of it on the bright side, it's actually you put so much focus because you care.
Yeah.
But what I do now is shift that energy to not a negative one, but into something that, I can start something, or how can I put that energy into making a purpose in, in the world out there.
Yeah, that's a very good mindset because I think having doubts and having fear is very normal for everyone. But as long as we don't let the doubt or the fear hold us back from doing things, it's actually good and it's completely normal for us to have fears and doubt sometimes. Yeah.
Because you also don't want to go into something like, oh, everything is okay.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's so silly.
Exactly. Yes.
That it's more like a mechanism to help you know, like, oh, when things feel a bit weird, that self-doubt does come into place.
Yes, it makes you like maybe think twice on some decision that you're gonna make so that you don't make reckless decision. Yeah, so I think fear and self-doubt is still good to have as long as they don't hold you back from doing what you want to do.
Exactly, and doesn't demotivate you in how you see yourself. If you could give one chapter or message from the book to your younger self, what would it be and why?
One part of the book that I would want to read to my younger self is this part when she said, this may be the fundamental problem with caring a lot about what others think. It can put you on the established path, the mine isn't that impressive path, and keep you there for a very long time. Maybe it stops you from swerving and even considering a swerve because what you risk losing in terms of other people's high regard can feel too costly. I think growing up, I'm someone who most parents or teachers would think I'm the good kid, So when you're put in that path,
You're labeled that way.
Yes. When people label you that way, then you sort of have this self-consciousness that, oh, I am the role model to other people. I'm the good kid to other people. So I must behave certain way to live up to their expectation. So sometimes it's like, for example, when you're choosing what to study, people would tell you, oh, you're smart. You should do, let's say, sciences. But that's not what you want, actually. But you have always been living up to the label. So you would feel like, maybe that's not what I want, but I don't dare to change my path as well, because that would mean me losing that label, losing the
identity that
yeah,
people
the identity
gave
that
you.
people give. Yeah. So like what she said, that actually keep you there for a very long time, doing something that other people expect you to do instead of doing something that you yourself wants to do. It's like, let's say if you are very good in academics and people around you will expect you to go down that path to pursue something more intelligent and academic. But let's say if you want to swerve to do something more creative, it's a deviation from the identity that people put on you. That is something that I think I would just want to remind my younger self that, that label is what people put on you. You don't really have to live up to that label if it's not what you want. Yeah.
I do relate to that so much, because I think when I was younger also, like I've, as the eldest daughter,
Yeah.
I had to be a certain person for my younger sibling and also to the outside world. I think naturally also out of the fear that I won't be viewed as the person I am.
Yeah, it's
And I
like you're always weighing the cost. I want to do this, but then I will lose
Yeah.
the label that people give me. I will not live up to the expectation. So is it worth it?
And I think the beauty about being an adult,
Mm.
thankfully, is that you are now in control of
Yeah.
how you carry yourself, and you also come to realize that how you are is not defined by other people, and you can take that ownership now to have more control on how you want to be and just reconnect with your passions, your dreams, and who you truly are. For me, I would give my younger self the message: start before you feel ready.
That's very good.
Because I used to wait for the perfect timing, being a perfectionist myself. When I'm more confident, when I'm more experienced, when I'm more certain, then I will take that chance.
Yeah, but sometimes that moment never comes.
Never
and then
comes.
we just never start.
You lose that moment.
Yes.
You already go
Yes,
ahead in life.
Exactly.
But now I know that growth only happens when you take that first step. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be, starting your own business or just getting out there, if you ever felt scared going on stage when you're younger. But if you don't take that chance, you never know if you like that stage or you are scared of that stage forever.
Yes.
So I'll tell my younger self that it's okay to start small or even fail in that, but you learn.
Yeah.
Because that's how every successful journey begins.
Yeah, true. I think the most important is like, even if you fail, you learn. So then the next time you know how you can do better, and you know what's for you and what's not for you.
How has this book shaped your personal growth or the way you handle challenges now?
I think this one actually, I think the answer relates back to the values that I've learned from this book. I think it's more like a general shift in mindset, I would say. A change in mindset that I'm always a work in progress, and whatever decision that I make when in face of challenges, it should always come back to how much you know and how much you understand yourself. So it should come from a place where you know that you make this decision because of yourself instead of because of what the society think you should do, and also instead of what the society pressure you to do. The main thing that changed is the mindset that you should always look back at yourself when you're facing challenges, because only you know what is the best option for you, instead of like waiting for other people to define that for you.
I like how you have circulated everything you learned from the book through your answers. So it's great that you've put it such a way. Whenever you handle challenges, I can see that you're growing closer to yourself in a way, because then you're reconnecting back to yourself and ask yourself those questions. Yeah, and I think a lot of listeners can take away from that. For me, the book, The Diary of a CEO, taught me is to view challenges as, not failures, but information that helps me grow stronger and make better decisions next time. I can see myself becoming more solution oriented and less reactive. Whenever things don't go as planned, I remind myself that obstacles are just part of the process, and this mindset has helped me balance ambition with patience, a skill I know I will need when I start my own business one day.
Yes, yeah. I do think like starting a business actually takes a lot of patience.
Patience.
It's gonna be a very long process, but I think it's gonna be so rewarding in the end.
Yeah, a lot of patience in a way where you will face a lot of obstacles, technical wise, or you're just learning new skills along the way, and even maybe judgments from people saying that, oh, your idea is
Yeah,
how it's going to
yeah.
survive, or like you're too weak or whatsoever. But
Mm,
I
mm.
guess with that is more trust in yourself and more
Yes.
picking up yourself through that patience. It's very important.
Yeah.
Last but not least, if someone is just starting their own self discovery journey, why should they start with this book?
Becoming is a good place to start because it's very real. Yes, it's very inspiring and motivational, but at the same time, she also doesn't sugarcoat the process. And she made it clear that it's not about having everything figured out. Like, she really takes you through all stages of her life, from feeling uncertain and overlooked to finding her own voice and purpose. And she's honest about the doubts as well, the doubts, the pressure, the vulnerability, and the moments when she herself didn't feel enough in whatever she's doing, which makes the book very relatable. And I guess also sets the right expectation on how a realistic self-discovery journey would be like. It's also not just self-discovery in terms of career and growth, but also in terms of like navigating relationships and friendships. And I think it reminds you that becoming yourself is a messy but beautiful process, and it's always an ongoing process regardless of which stage of life you are in. What I think is that this book, I hope that it will set a realistic expectation for people who are just starting their self-discovery journey. Because sometimes when we read a lot of books that are more motivational, like they will put self-discovery journey in a very motivational, inspiring way, as if this is going to be something great that you're going to experience and you're going to come out from this journey and becoming a completely different person. But the truth is, along the way, it's not always sunshine and daisy. Sometimes it can be hard along the way. But I think she did a very good job in putting it in a very realistic way. Yeah.
And also to top it out, like your favorite word, balance.
Oh, yes.
She has that. She made this book, she balanced things out, like you say.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just sunshine and rainbow. She make it very realistic. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Ying Yun. I learned a lot through this session. And I like the aspect that you say that the book is very real. And I think we need this kind of book more in today's world where, real in a sense where things can feel so isolating for people out there who just stepped out in their own career or maybe feeling lost in their life. So I think the book Becoming will be such a great book for those people. For me, The Diary of a CEO is not just a book about business. It's a book about becoming the best version of yourself. And I like the author because he breaks down complex lessons on success, mindset, and leadership in a way that feels honest and relatable to the reader. It's the kind of book that I feel someone should pick up today because it motivates you to take ownership of your life, make better choices, and build something that truly matters.
Yes. Yeah, that's so powerful, I think. I think that book is really like, even for someone who is not thinking of setting up their own business, I think from what I learned from what you shared today, that will be a useful book as well for everyone to reflect on yourself, to reflect on your leadership style, regardless of whether you are thinking of starting a business or not.
Yeah, great way of putting it. And also, I want to emphasize is you don't need to be a CEO of a business if you want to be one day to take up this. It's also, you can put it like how you say, leadership style in a way that you can be a CEO of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, like every time we think of like the word CEO and leadership, we always think of it in
professional terms.
Professional terms. But sometimes, leadership is also needed in your daily life.
I had such a fun time today. I think this is such a fruitful lesson, not just between ourselves, but also to the listeners. Any last words you'd like to add, Ying Yun, or anything you liked about today's episode that you learned?
I think today's episode is not just like a podcast recording. I think it's also a bonding between us.
Yes.
Because we actually haven't seen each other for quite long. And like, I know that you like to read as well. Like, you have the types of book that you like to read, but we actually never properly sit down and talk about books, talk about reading. So I think this is a very good opportunity. And I do think like the two books that we share today, both are very good book that we really hope that, you know, the readers, if it intrigue you, maybe you can also pick up the book and have a read, and maybe you'll learn something from the books itself.
Exactly. And like how I said at the start, it's very nice to hear different perspectives from, you know, two different people. And we've also identified things like similarities in those books,
Yeah,
even though they
yeah.
are of different, you know, types. Like one is autobiography and one is more towards entrepreneurial side. I think it's good because, you know, in today's world, not many people are reading. It's like,
Yeah,
it's not really a
true.
not, especially when you're busy. So I hope this is also a reminder and also inspiration for people. Whenever you get a free time, do pick up any of the books that we've mentioned. I
Yeah.
think you will also grow. Feel free to subscribe, follow, and comment if you like this episode today, or if you resonated in any way. Thank you for tuning in to the Better You podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye.
Bye.